All right. Okay, I'm sorry. We're a couple minutes late to get started. So luckily, this session has been tagged as a beginner session. I'm going to go over some beginner concepts. And this session is going to go pretty fast, so I think we should be wrapping up in about 30 minutes. So then I'll open it up for questions, and hopefully I'll have some answers. And feel free to stop me at any point if you have a question on what I'm saying, if something is not clear. All right. And this is, of course, a talk about options for mobilizing your website. So I am Andy Kucharski. I have made it. I am not a fireman. That is me biking in the middle of Chicago winter. It's very confusing. I don't know why this has stuck with me. It's everywhere. So if you see this guy, that's me. I have made it very easy for everyone to follow me on Twitter because I'm just A. Kucharski, right? That just rolls off the tongue. It's like you don't even have to write that down. Oh yeah, I'm a founder of ProMetSource. So I do a lot of different things with the company. That's some of the folks that have been with us. We were founded in 2003. In 2008, we have pivoted, and we are focusing on Drupal development, Drupal support only. We have an office in Chicago. We have an office in San Jose, and we have some folks that are kind of all over the world, all over the place. So, so we've been looking at Drupal for a number of years, and that's part of the reason why I feel okay giving this talk. But I don't know everything. So what I'm going to do is try to leave you with two main concepts, or more focus around two themes. Considerations for making your content or your website mobile. So what should we think about? And different ways that we can, and tools that we have right now, and in different ways that we can take our site or content mobile right now, and kind of philosophically think about what that is. So we're in a really good spot because Drupal is a pretty good system for taking your content mobile. Dries has been thinking about this a lot. There's a lot of contributors who have made this job easy for us. The things that are going on with Drupal 8 are even going to make it better and easier. So all in all, bottom line is we're going to be okay. All right, so who's doing a Drupal mobile website right now, or building a mobile website? Who is doing a responsive website? Okay, who has considering building a mobile website? Okay, cool. So this is like a sales pitch slide for those of you who are considering taking a website mobile. Let's go. So in 2013, that's just next year, there are going to be more devices connected to the internet that are wireless and that are mobile than there are desktops or even laptops. So that's going to happen next year. Right now, the growth of pages that are viewed by mobile devices is around 600% or something ridiculous like that. I just saw a stat recently which actually confirmed some of the statistics that I see on some of our clients' analytics that state that about 10% of all global traffic to websites is from mobile devices. Right? So if you are working on a larger site, if you think about it, if you don't do mobile right now, by the time you redo your site next time, you will be way behind the curve, and you'll be turning off some of your potential users, customers, and so on. Actually, just last night at the social, I was standing next to somebody who exclaimed, "I can't believe this site's not mobile or not responsive." So there are users who are already expecting that certain level of content providers are going to respond to them in a responsive way, or at least detect what they're looking at. Our site, ProMed Source site, our traffic grew 275. Our mobile traffic grew 275% from last year to this year, and that was in May. I bet if I looked at July, it would probably be even higher. So again, if you think of a major redesign, if it's going to be, if you're doing a site that's going to last for 3 years or so, by the time you do the next one, and you don't address some of these users, some of these issues, then it may look bad, and you may lose some of that. So another reason, I always like read, and I always really get excited about life when I read these futuristic predictions. Like, oh, you're going to be doing e-commerce transactions on your mobile phones. I heard that 10 years ago, and I was like, that's going to be so awesome. And so then I ran across this at the DrupalCon presentation. So this is a stat I lifted from Luke Wroblewski, who said, yeah, Amazon transacted $1 billion last year via mobile devices. So like that's happening now, $1 billion, right? That's not so futuristic. Like people spend $1 billion on there, right? That's pretty cool, right? I think so. And there's like a lot of different cool stats. All right, so Brad Frost, you guys know who he is? Chad does. Okay, cool. So he totally let me use these. I emailed him, and he was totally cool with that. But he used it in his presentations. He's a visionary on what is the web. So you guys remember when this was so awesome? All we had to do was like design and program for like IE6. It was so easy, right? Like all the fonts rendered the same. Everybody was expected to generally have the same monitor size. Like that was great. You build it for one browser. You don't have to worry about anything. Well, that's not the web anymore, right? It's not. It's if you look at your analytics. Who looks at your analytics and looks at what kind of devices or users are coming across, right? It gets kind of crazy, right? And then like you look at Android, and then you look at the screen sizes that come out of that, and you just go crazy because there's so many different screen sizes on Android devices, and Apple makes it easier for you. So that's not the web. So we're going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to reveal the secrets of the future. No, we're going to talk a little bit about what the expectations are and what it is. So right now, life is hard. It's because we have to think about tablets, and we have to think about mobile, and we have to think about big screens. And then guess what? Like we were doing a responsive design last year, and life was good. It was going great. And then Amazon came out with Kindle Fire, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a totally different breakpoint set than what we have thought about. And it is a tablet. Is it a tablet? Well, Galaxy 3S, that's got a huge resolution, but a small screen size. So how do you prepare for that? I don't know. And what's the future? What are you going to do? I mean, there's already like a browser built into a refrigerator. Like, how are you responding to that threat? We don't know, right? The bottom line is that we're not really sure what we're going to have to respond to. What's the new iPhone that's going to come out? There's some rumors about the screen size. We can't really design or plan for that because we don't know. But I think, and I'm going to illustrate some things, is that what you're doing is you have to extend your content. So plan for the future beyond the future. And the way to do that is you think about your content and how you're going to expose that content to those unknown future devices that your users are going to use to get to your content, right? Because your website is content, or your website is an e-commerce site, so it's a transaction. So you're asking the user to take action. So if you have a framework of allowing your users to do that, then you will be able to prepare for the future. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a couple of other things. Chad, who's sitting in the back, and I'm sorry, Chad, I know I didn't prepare you for this, but he is very much aware of these concepts where we work. So if you have any questions, ask him. But there's some other things, considerations that should be kept in mind when you're thinking about putting together a website that is going to be mobile or accessed by users. And that doesn't always have to do with design. So some things to think about as you're taking the next step is one of them are the focus. And what are people doing when they're on their mobile devices, right? Hopefully they're not driving, but they may be walking. They may be have a limited amount of time, so they're really dependent on pulling up your website very quickly and try to get to that very important thing that they're trying to do, because maybe I'm on a plane and I'm trying to do something very quick, or I need this piece of information so I can relax for the next 4 hours. Whatever it is, it's different than sitting at a comfortable desktop. There might be lightning considerations. You may have terrible connection speeds. I mean, that was pretty ridiculous. Like those guys, and I can only assume they're somewhere in the middle of, I don't know, maybe Africa. That's kind of out there. But there's some bad spots, right? Like you don't know how big of a connection there is. So a couple of examples. And again, who's seen the Luke Wroblewski talk at Denver, or seen him talk at all? Awesome. Wow, just one person. All right, so he did this. So I give him full credit. He did a very nice job. At least I found different sites that do this a little bit better. But this talks about the considerations when presenting your content to your users that are using your mobile devices. So if you take a look at two URLs, same URL. I go to Orbitz on my desktop. I actually took these screenshots. That is not true. I did not take this mobile screenshot, but I took that one. If you go to Orbitz, you will get that site. A lot of information. So, but if you look at it a mobile device, the people who build the mobile device, mobile website, have really spent a lot of time considering these outside factors and have found a way to whittle down their content or what they think their users are going to be to these four menu options. And that's pretty brilliant, right? Page loads pretty fast. They really thought about mobile first and what are things that are really important to my users. What do I want them to do? This is a transactional site, so there's an action that's going to take. There's a call to action, but maybe if you're providing information, there's different things. So considerations for moving mobile. United, actually, I fly United all the time. I think they did a really good job. Again, same principle, tons of information on the homepage. I mean, you probably have, who's having kind of discussions right now about what to put on your homepage with your client base or with your stakeholders, and there's more people trying to push more stuff on your homepage. All right, responsive first, it's going to even be tougher because you're going to have to whittle it down even further. So you're going to have to say no a lot more than you do now. But it's important, right? Because if I'm, the first time I personally pulled up this site, I was literally one of those guys who was going through an airport and I just wanted to get a flight status, and boom, it was right there. It was so much better than trying to load the entire site. So I'm a happy customer. Sorry. That's awesome. I agree with you. I find them annoying too. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about why when we wrap up. That's a great question. So I'll leave plenty of room for that discussion. All right. So what I'm trying to get at is there are considerations. There's a lot of different devices. We don't really know what to do, what's really going to be in the future. We can only plan kind of what's happening now, maybe for the next iPhone release. Maybe we can plan and strategically respond to tablets and iPhones or small devices. But really, the bottom line is that content is king. And here's an example of an organization that really grasps that concept and takes content and distributes it to many different forms for their customers to consume. And they do it via this, there's a great blog. They do this with this COPE concept. So they have content editors that put content in different ways, and there's rich media in there as well. So there's multimedia, text, and other forms of content. They have databases that store that, and they have open APIs that allow the edge devices or edge distribution channels to get at that content. Right. So now, this makes it this is really smart because you're not really your presentation layer can be multiple things. It could be npr.org. It could be a mobile website. It could be NPR widgets that sit on other websites. It could be you can give consumers access to your content via API, and they can pull that information, or they can pull whatever you're trying to do. So if all of a sudden everybody hates mobile phones and they have mobile glasses, like, you just drop that presentation layer and you already have a way of getting at that content, and you build that, right? So future, kind of out there, I know, but this is the way that to cope with that next step, how to really truly prepare long term. The other consideration, and I love talking about this, I couldn't leave this out, but page speed. And so yes, a lot of people really don't like mobile sites, and part of the reason is because we're all impatient, and when you don't respond, when the site that you're trying to bring up doesn't respond, and it may not be of its own fault, it may not be your fault, maybe not your server's fault, maybe just the fact that you're in a dead spot, but that doesn't matter. Your users will abandon it. Well, so it's very important to make sure that you're responding to your users' requests as fast as possible. So there are different considerations and things to keep in mind when building your mobile websites. And really, some of these are touched on or explained much better in the Mobile First book. So I'm borrowing some of the concepts that were discussed there, and I just want to make you guys a little bit aware of it. All right, so that's great, Andy. We're not going to get crazy. We're not going to start building our websites to respond to this LG fridge that's out there. So what can we do right now, right? I need something right now. So let's talk about 4 things that we can do right now. I'm going to show you some things that are out there right now in the marketplace that you can just sign up and build a website before I'm done with my presentation today. Mobile website before I'm done with the presentation today. If you guys want to do it, I'm very happy to look at that afterwards. Switch themes. So this is the Drupal switch theme device detection. I'm going to talk about, it's a little controversial. I'll talk about when that works. Responsive design. There are responsive design sessions here, right? So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that. And then build an application to access your data. So that COPE model and how we've done it and why it's awesome in Drupal. Any questions so far? Good, fast, too slow? Okay, option number 1. If you're an Acquia subscriber, you get Mobilify for free. It's a third-party tool that basically switches your theme. You get an SDK through Mobilify. There's another one called MoveWeb, although I haven't looked at them for about a year now, so I'm not sure if they're still around, but I think they are. But basically the way it works is that you sign up for one of these tools. They're free, so Mobilify is free. And you get a JavaScript snippet that you drop in your theme, and that JavaScript will do the work of detecting whether you have a mobile website. If you do have a mobile website, then it's going to take you and direct it to their CDN. So what you have to do is download their SDK, and you will use that SDK to basically, it overlays your current site, and you use that to choose how you want to build your mobile site. It uses it to fit your site within their framework. And it has a CDN that basically, as a mobile user, as you can see, I'm going to hit your JavaScript. I'm going to say, no, this is a mobile site. I'm using Mobilify. Go to Mobilify and display my mobile site there. They have some really big customers that have signed up for this, so they're pretty successful. Like I said, it's a free product. You can get up and running really fast. For free products, it is a attribution. You have an attribution to your website, so you have to give them attribution on your mobile website for that. You can pay, so you remove that attribution restriction, but it is a paid service at that point. And then I guess some people think that because it's a multi-platform solution, it's a bit of a drag. Okay, so separate templates. That's another option that you have to build your mobile website. So, for example, some people. So again, I want to make it clear that this is a somewhat controversial approach because responsive design really takes care of a lot of things that you need to do here. It's a more holistic approach. There's a lot more tools that are being built for responsive. However, I still will make a point that in some cases it is advantageous to have a separate theme and build it on your own and fully control it. So we have an example of when we did this and why I did this. Oh. So one of our clients, it's a group of dealers somewhere in Texas, around the Dallas, Texas area, and we looked at their analytics, and they had a solution that was going to be evaluated after some time, and basically said, no, we don't really want to do responsive. We really want to build out our brand in this layer only for the iPhone users or for this particular set of users. So we did that. We used JQuery Mobile. It's a module with Drupal. And we did, there's some tools that do browser detection, and we send their particular set of mobile users to a site that's built out just for that set. So that's the mobile site right here on the right. No responsive, just mobile. So if you go to MCMC Auto right now on a mobile phone, you'll get the mobile theme. Most of you guys will. What we found for these sets of users is the mobile users actually have their page views are 8 times higher than non-mobile users. So designing for this particular set really increased interaction on that particular site. You do get a bit of a performance hit on the detection of the device and serving up the different themes. You have control, that's an advantage. Yeah, and the problem is that you have multiple themes to maintain. That could be a little bit of a pain doing continuous releases. Detection is not always reliable, and you really want to limit the number of the devices that you're detecting. All right, responsive. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this is really pretty well talked about. But you essentially have one layer that's you have one template layer. You take your breakpoints, and through CSS and JavaScript, your responsive design starts to change layout based on your screen size and the number of pixels there on that screen, right? So here's an example of a site that we did for a publication in Chicago. You can see, and you guys are probably familiar with a lot of this, but you see what happens. So the first screen is a full screen. You have 2 columns. Second screen is a screen designed for a tablet. We're dropping off the right column there, and we're moving some things around. So where the advertising used to be in a header there in the blue, we move it below. So it's a little bit friendlier for the tablet. And then the same site, same theme, there's no changing of the themes on a mobile phone. It drops down to that one column. Has anybody played with Boston Globe? Who here has played with Boston Globe? Okay, so for your homework, check out Boston Globe. That's a great example of responsive design. If you take Boston Globe and you drag it from left to right, you'll see it adjusting to the screen size itself. That's essentially responsive design. I'll try to see whether I can pull something up in the end. So, and then you'll see patterns basically for theming and layout happening here. This is another one of our clients. This is an image-heavy website. We were able to create breakpoints and different template layouts for responsive and different scenarios. So this is a full, this is a tablet, and this is a mobile, right? So you're basically dropping content as you go, or you're realigning content as you go from bigger to smaller screen size. This is another one. All right, this is very exciting, this part right here. Option 4 is basically building web applications or mobile applications and getting content from your Drupal site. So this is the COPE model when I described NPR. They probably have responsive websites, they probably have regular websites, they have widgets, and they probably have mobile websites that use, if they're running Drupal, that use these types of services. So in Drupal 8, it's going to make it even better. In this case, so what I have here on screen is you could build mobile applications using the same skill sets that you have right now. If you're a site builder, if you're a Drupal developer, if you're a front-end themer, you have the skill sets to build your mobile website because you can use a hybrid development toolkit such as Accelerator or PhoneGap, which relies on HTML and JavaScript and builds an app and compiles it for either iOS or Android or other devices, right? You can also build natively, and then you can use Drupal and Services module to communicate with that application to Drupal. Is that making sense? Go on.
So those are 2 different options.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can build your mobile applications with these tools on the left. So that could be native Android toolkit or iOS toolkit, or you can use the current skill set that generally site builders have, and use something like PhoneGap. So PhoneGap is basically an SDK that allows you to compile down to an application down to, let's say, iOS, but you're building it with HTML5 and JavaScript. So let's say, and I'll show you guys an example of how we did that. So let's go to an example, and we can come back to questions.
So wouldn't it be, though, I need to clarify, when you're doing this, your Drupal is just the back end, and you're creating, HTML and JavaScript. You use JQuery Mobile, and then convert that to PhoneGap. So you're adding, you're doing something in addition to Drupal to get a mobile app.
Yep.
Just one comment. I use Mobi1.
Yeah. There are other. That's true. There are.
Well, I've had some that's free. Same thing as Mobi1. The accelerator. I think it's less than $100. I can't.
Yeah. So there are toolkits. You're right. There are multiple toolkits on the market now that you can use to use HTML and JavaScript, and they'll package your application up and be able to run on your phones. I think they're still running through a browser or emulator, but that's like a bit of a different discussion. But yes, so there are more tools than Accelerator and PhoneGap. I think Accelerator has been purchased by Adobe now. So here is an example of how far you can take content. So we actually use Drupal as a framework to build a taxi distribution system for a startup company in Madison, Wisconsin. So this is an example of a proprietary hardware application that we replaced with commodity iPad hardware and Drupal and some HTML5 and JavaScript programming and PhoneGap. So this is a view in Drupal. This is a dispatch screen for this group of folks in Madison. So as a call comes in, they put in that information, or there's on the website, if somebody needs a taxi, they'll put that information in. And this is a dispatch screen for those folks. This is Drupal. It's just Drupal. This is this is a map of Madison, Wisconsin, and pardon the really bad choice of colors for taxis. They're also orange, but it indicates where the fleet of taxis is at any given time. That's upgraded. It's updated every 15 seconds or so. So a dispatch operator is able to see where the taxis are, and all of this runs. This is open layers and Drupal and a bunch of other modules. So this is the iPad screen. It's actually, this is an old screenshot, but essentially this is the PhoneGap screen that communicates back to Drupal on the taxi's location. Again, just content. I'm giving you content of where I am. When there's a new ride request that's assigned to that taxi, it is a content type that gets pushed out to that device. Or actually, I think the device queries the Drupal database to see whether it has any rides. A operator gets notified, here's a ride. Do you choose to accept it or deny it? If they accept it, content in Drupal gets updated, the ride gets loaded. The operators on the Drupal side see that this driver has accepted this ride, and everybody's happy. We've also, so this is the scope system. We've also built a mobile application that connects to the Drupal system for consumers. So I need a taxi right now. I have built if I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, I can download I can download an app for Green Cab, and I can say, I need a ride right now. It'll say, where are you? How many passengers are with you? Where are you going? And it's going to tell me how much it's going to cost me to get there, and then I can track my cab of when it's getting here. And all of that is done via, basically all the back-end stuff is Drupal. Right? Isn't that pretty cool? Yeah. So I'm giving you guys this example because I think that that's one way to really take essentially all of this stuff as content, right? You're pushing and getting content. So whatever it is that you are running, whatever site you're running, you can do all of this stuff and extend it. And we can build a taxi application that pushes and receives content from a Drupal system. You can extend that to anything. There's actually a Drupal iOS SDK that's maintained out there. So if you're an iOS SDK developer, you now have access to a library that allows you to call functions to get your Drupal data. Now, actually, I talked to one of the co-maintainers of this SDK on Tuesday, and he says that the native networking application that's sitting on top or below this level is so good that you don't even need this Drupal iOS SDK. You can just use that to make all the calls to Drupal services. So if you have data in your Drupal site, you can build an application, they'll get it. Okay, so here's another, I hope you guys agree, a pretty cool example of what we're building and what you can do. So I'm launching an application here in our office, and this is an augmented reality app. And what it's doing is, it's detecting my location, and as I'm scanning my phone, it's looking to see if there's a bus stop or a train stop in the direction that I'm pointing. And if there is one, it's going to indicate that on the screen, and then it's going to make another API call to the city of Chicago to get the next arrival time and the direction of the next public transport, whether it's a train or a bus. So if I'm visiting Chicago, I can take this application, load it on my phone. It says, where are you? I'm right here. Okay, as I'm looking around, it's going to tell me where's the closest bus stop, and then it's going to tell me how soon I can expect to be picked up and in what direction. This is in Drupal. However, if you have geo-coded data in your Drupal system, you can do this on top of this augmented reality framework. Pretty cool, right? Whoops, sorry. All right, so everybody's going to start building augmented reality apps, I hope, and that's my number. No, not quite, but you can really take it out there. But there's a lot of reasons to be happy about why we're here, right? So Drupal makes it easy right now. You have this wonderful services module, which I've demonstrated, that you can use to pull data information from and push the data into or content into your Drupal website. There are Drupal sites and Drupal themes right now that come responsive out of the box, right? So if you ever played with Drupal profiles, open public, it's responsive out of the box. There's nothing that you have to do to make it mobile ready. This is a brand new install out of the box, download from Drupal.org, and as you're squeezing your browser, this is what happens to that implementation. As I mentioned already, you have wonderful themes that are Drupal ready. They already come with pre-programmed breakpoints for you. So all you have to do is implement that theme, and you basically just follow the guidelines of the breakpoints. So Omega, that's HTML5 ready, CSS3. So I hope this is going to be kind of inspirational, all this information, because I think that you have tremendous growth, right? You have this tremendous growth of the mobile applications, mobile phones out there, and I think that's an opportunity for us to come up with some really cool stuff for our users. Yeah, it's more work, but that's where everybody is going. And you can create stuff. It's kind of like moving away from the IE6 world, and new stuff is possible, and we can be innovators again. Constraints help you focus, and that sometimes is a really hard process, right? Because you have a lot of stakeholders that want that bells or that whistle to the right. It may be hard, but ultimately, because you have those constraints and you're focusing on what you're trying to do with your mobile website, you creating value for your users, and capabilities lead to innovation. So it's a good time to think about doing a mobile website. And as I mentioned, Drupal is pretty ready out of the box, not only with themes, but also services. Drupal Core and D8 is going to handle HTTP requests differently. So it's all good. Wow, it takes a lot longer than I expected. I actually hope to have some more time for questions. So questions, yes?
So I noticed with the responsive sites, it seemed like the smaller the screen got, there was less advertising.
Yeah.
So if there's more people using mobile sites, then it seems like that would reduce your advertising revenue.
Yes. Okay.
What solutions are there, or where do you see advertising going in the future for mobile?
Great question. So the question was, I noticed that as I have a, so this is one of the sites that we did. Let's see if I can. Oh wow. Did this crash? No. Live demo, awesome. I don't know. I'm not in that business. However, what I have heard about advertising on mobile is, and this is just again, I have no authority to speak on this. This is just anecdotal. However, we were at a roundtable, and there was somebody from the newspaper industry, and they were talking about this concept, and they said, look, it was dollars in the print side, it's dimes on the website, and it's pennies on the mobile side. So, yes, there's probably some diminishing returns on mobile advertising. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but that's anecdotal. Yes?
A lot of the responsive themes, I mean, you can choose things not to show. Generally, it just switches everything down. So you collapse your theme, so your sidebar goes down into your content, like sidebar right or something different. So it's still there. So you don't have to do away with your advertising or your content.
No, yeah, it's not doing away. So what's happening here, so you guys, in terms of advertising, this ad right here stays in this is just one responsive pattern of design, right? But it stays in the top nav as I am pulling it down and reach the next breakpoint. It goes within the content. And this one moves over here. inside the content. And then let's see what happens to it when I go totally mobile. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so there.
I'm ready for questions. Anybody else? Chad, did I miss anything? Oh, yes.
Is there like a way where you can have your website, like when you resize your window on a regular web browser computer versus like on your phone? So, like, let's say I don't want my boxes to shift over, and I want the position. How could you change that in your mobile application, but so that like the boxes do shift for a mobile screen size, but not if you're on a console? Yeah, so it's still in the GigaOm, like instead of going by screen width, you go by browser or go by device width. You can. I mean, there's open up section for the 6 or half a dozen documents. But yeah, instead of the actual browser width, the device width. The only hesitation that happens is there's plenty of mobile devices out there that try to do what they understand. But that's how you get around that. So when you're dragging in your browser, it doesn't do it. It goes up device width, not browser width.
Thanks, Chad. Anybody else?
For the advanced themer, mobile themer question, are people generally using Omega because it's more of a framework and like out there? Is that kind of
Why are folks using Omega? I think folks are using Omega because it has a pretty good number of tools that are available for it. There's also add-on tools on top of Omega. It has they've done a really good job on kind of getting ahead of the curve and creating scaffolding for the user in terms of creating the breakpoints, so you don't have to really think about that as much. Chad, do you have anything else to add?
Jake, who's Himmers on 3.0, did an excellent job of documentation on it. Other themes out there that do responsive and are great, but the documentation is Omega just hands down leads the charge on that. And their UI within the Drupal framework is so easy to use in comparison to the other ones, whereas they've got with Omega, and you set up your base structure layout, you can use the Delta module as a helper module, basically, to give yourself a template of those settings, and then use that in conjunction with context. And it's like, it seems like an incredibly detailed multi-layout site in a matter of like a half hour. Obviously it's much more involved than that, but it's just the UI and documentation set it apart by far. And he did his homework. He absolutely did his homework. And it works really well.
Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you very much. I'll be available right now between now and the next session, which I'm also giving up here. Thank you for coming. I hope it was real for you a while.